Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum class. I welcome you to English grade 8 video lessons. I'm your English teacher Zia. I hope that you're doing well. My dear learners, let's talk about an SLO from our unit number 4. The title is He's a Carpenter. Now, we are going to see an SLO from the competency of reading and critical thinking, and the topic is on punctuation. We know that punctuations are very important. If not used correctly and properly, it completely changes our meaning and our message is somehow not conveyed. So today's SLO is specifically on that. Let's see what the punctuations we are going to see and how we can learn them each one by one with some examples. So our students' learning outcome is use common punctuation cues to aid or help comprehension when reading, like comma, full stop, exclamation mark, colon, dash, parenthesis, slash, and ellipsis. Now, when we are reading something, we have to have a very good comprehension, and punctuation marks, understanding them, they actually help our comprehension skills, and it ultimately helps our understanding. And all these punctuation marks mentioned over here will be covered. So let's get started. Here before you is a vertical linkage of this SLO with the previous grade. They are linked together. I hope that you have gone through the previous grade's students' learning outcome and you can retain as much information as you can. Now let's talk about a very interesting brainstorming activity today in our brainstorming session. Before you, you can see that there are the same passage written twice, and you need to see that which one seems more appropriate. Pause the video, read them both, and see that which one is sounding and looking better. Now, moving on with our topic, which is about punctuations. Let's see first, because it's also very important to capitalize the right words at the right time. We need to see what is capitalization. It is kind of a preview, because you have already studied about capitalization and how do they work. So we have linked capitalization with our lesson of punctuation. So we capitalize proper nouns such as names or places and organizations. For example, Ahmed, London, and State Bank of Pakistan. You can see that the first letters are capitalized. This is a name, this is a place, and here is an organization. So there are some rules for capitalization. You have to begin sentences with the capital letter, capitalize important words in titles, headings, and specific contexts, and capitalize days, months, holidays, nationalities, languages, initials, and acronyms. So all these things will be needing the first letter to be capitalized. Now, moving on to our punctuations. First, we have full stop. You are very much familiar with this one. It is very commonly used punctuation. A full stop is used at the end of a sentence to indicate a complete thought or statement. So we know that we are using full stop at the end of a sentence, and we use it because when the sentence is giving us complete thought or the statement is completed. For example, I went to the store to buy some groceries. This sentence makes sense. It is conveying a complete thought and also the statement is complete. Hence, we used our full stop at the end. Another way of using full stops is after the initials, like Mr. or Doctor, Professor. So all these contractions, we can use the short forms followed by a full stop. Now, let's talk about commas. Now, just like full stops, when we are moving from one sentence to the other, commas are also about taking breaks, but between the sentences. Let's see. A comma separates items in a list connect independent clauses, or indicates a pause in a sentence. So, a comma can be used to separate items when there are more than one item in a sentence. They are mentioned in a list, you will be using the comma. You can connect two independent clauses together with a comma or indicate a pause in a sentence. So these are the three different purposes of using comma. Let's look at an example. I like to eat apples, bananas, and oranges. Now, can you spot the punctuation mark over here? Yes. Commas are being used because we have more than one item in our list: apples, bananas, and oranges. So they are separated by commas. Also, when you're saying something and you take a break in your speech or writing, if the sentence is longer, you need to break them down. You use your punctuation mark, comma. So this is all about the punctuation mark. And then let's talk about exclamation mark. An exclamation mark is used to show strong emotion, surprise, or emphasis. So when we want to show something we are feeling emotionally and that is a very strong emotion, you use exclamation mark at the end. Or when you are surprised, or when you are emphasizing or paying very much emphasis on something. Let's look at an example. What a beautiful sunset. Now, this is followed by an exclamation mark, and an exclamation mark looks something like this. So, if you happen to go outside and see a sunset, you immediately articulate a very strong emotion about what a beautiful sunset. So this emotion, it needs an exclamatory mark, an exclamation mark at the end. Next, we have another punctuation which is question mark. Yes, you can guess that correctly. We use them when we are asking a question. So a question mark is used at the end of a sentence to indicate a question. For example, where does the strength of a nation lie? This sentence is ending with a punctuation mark, which is a question mark. So this is a question. So all the interrogative sentences are followed by a question mark. Next, we have another punctuation mark, which is colon. A colon is a punctuation mark that is used to divide a sentence. The colon resembles two dots positioned vertically, just like this. Here, this is a colon. So, colon is used when we are going to divide a sentence, and there are some more purposes. Let's see the usage of colon over here. So, the colon has a variety of uses, some of which include when you are introducing a list, when you are introducing an explanation or introducing a quote by someone, and connecting two related sentences or two independent clauses together. So whenever you want to introduce a list, introduce some more explanation of anything, or when you are connecting two sentences that are related, and for example, there are two independent clauses, so you will be needing a colon to separate these two independent clauses. Now, a colon can separate two independent clauses when the second clause explains, restates, or elaborates on the first clause. Let's look at an example over here. He was faced with a choice. He could either leave or stay and fight. Now we know that this sentence has two clauses and they are independent, because independently, if you take them, they make a very good sense. But they are separated by a colon. And the second part, the second clause is actually a part of the first clause, and it is explaining and restating the first independent clause. So in this way, we know that these two sentences are related, and when it comes to that, we use our colon, just like we used over here. Next, let's look at that there are some more ways in which you use colon. So colons are used to separate hours from minutes in time notation. For example, the meeting starts at 3:30 p.m. So you can see that the hour is separated with from the minute with a colon. We can also use colon in titles and subtitles. For example, a colon can separate a title from a subtitle. Here is a title of a book, The Art of War, Strategies for Success. Now this part over here is our title and this part is our subtitle. And the title and the subtitle are separated by a colon. It is as easy as it looks. Now let's look at some examples combined in one slide. This recipe needs 4 ingredients: flour, sugar, eggs, and vanilla extract. Now you know that we are explaining things, we are giving a list and we are mentioning things. So we are using our colon over here. And this part of the sentence is connected with this first part. So colon usage is justified. Another example is, Shakespeare said it best: all the words a stage and all the men and women merely players. So when we are quoting somebody, we use our colon. Another example is, I read all types of books: fiction, non-fiction, poetry, etc. Again, we are using colon to explain, to show all the list. And this part is connected with this part of the sentence. So we are giving more types, a list. That's when we use our colon. Moving on with our parentheses, they are brackets. Let's see them. Parentheses are used to enclose additional information, clarifications, or asides that are not essential to the main point. So we use parentheses for giving additional information, for clarification, clarifying something, or some things that are not essential to be part of the sentence as a whole. Then we use our parentheses. For example, he finally answered after taking 5 minutes to think that he didn't understand the question. Now, you can see that parentheses are used over here. This part of the sentence is enclosed in parentheses. And if you exclude this, if you minus this part of the sentence from the sentence, you can see that it still makes sense. This is just an additional information and clarification. Another example is, the committee, which meets every Thursday, will review the proposal. So again, we are using parentheses to give additional information. So this is why we use these round brackets, which we call parentheses, to give information, to clarify something, or telling something which is not very important, but you have to still write it. Next, we have ellipses. Now, ellipses are these 3-4 dots you can often see in different documents and stories. Ellipses are used to indicate the omission or the removal of words in a quote, a pause in speech, or an unfinished thought. So ellipses, they are used when there are some words that are left out from a quote, or when you need a pause in a speech, or when you have an unfinished thought and you finish it by using the ellipses. Now, example is, to be or not to be? That is the question. Now, this quote is from Shakespeare's play. You can see that after to be or not to be, we have a pause. We used our ellipses. Then another example is, she started to explain, well, I'm not sure if I can, and then trailed off, I was going to say something, but. So you can see that these are some unfinished sentences, unfinished thoughts. So if you come across this kind of situation, you will use ellipses. Next, we have our punctuation mark. which is slash. So slash is used to indicate alternatives or substitutes or fractions or separations. For example, you can use the bus, train to get to work. Now these, here we used our slash because we have an alternative or alternatives in the form of bus or train. Let's say it is used for fractions. She ate 3/4 of the pie. So we can use our slash, and another example is please read chapter 4-5 by tomorrow. So you can see that slashes are used, but mostly they are used when you have alternatives, but you want to mention them as well. Now let's see why we are learning punctuations and why they are important in our reading comprehension. Punctuation marks are crucial or important for understanding the precise meaning of words. They are essential in helping us comprehend or understand the text, as they represent the natural pauses and intonations of speech in written form. So, using punctuations, if you are very well aware of their usage, you can clearly get the message when the sentence is left out, or when you have alternatives, or when you have a list, and so on. So it is very important in reading. Here is your classroom activity where you have to read the given paragraph and follow all the punctuation lessons that we have learned and identify them. Next, this is your simulation link that you could play later on after this video lesson. You will learn more about punctuation in reading comprehension. We are here with our worksheet for you. Now the sentences are given, you need to capitalize them and punctuate them accordingly. Next one, we have our homework, which is about choosing a passage from your textbook and write about what are the punctuation marks used in the text and how those punctuation marks add meaning to the text and make it feasible for understanding. You can take any passage from the textbook, any page, and practice your punctuation knowledge. And at the end, we have all these resources mentioned in the description of the video. You can access them easily. This is for you to practice and learn and also do practical of the concept that we are learning from our students' learning outcome. At the end, I would like to say thank you for listening and being so patient. I hope that you have completely understood our students' learning outcome. You have achieved it by the end of our lesson. See you in the next video lesson. Allah Hafiz.